Hi folks and welcome to your Gersnet postponement reaction pod, coming to you in association with Forest Precision Engineering. My name's Alec Anderson and I'm talking to you shortly after Rangers drew PP with Ross County at Ibrox in tonight's SPFL Premiership fixture, Wednesday the 27th of December 2023. Rangers P, Ross County P. This is the second game on the trot that Ross County have drawn PP, so Philip Clement had no excuses. He should have known what to expect, but yet again he's failed to gain ground on Celtic in the Premiership title race. Heads will roll, and you can be sure that heads will roll if a certain Mr. Peter Lawwell of a certain Celtic FC has anything to do with it. If a certain Rangers FC turn up at a certain Parkhead on Saturday and take even as much as a point, and submit a team sheet that's even one player different from the team sheet we submitted at Fir Park on Christmas Eve, then I think Mr. Lawwell will decide retrospectively that sporting integrity has been breached and he'll really need to have a word with those SPFL officials that he keeps in his pocket for ease of asking such questions. It's been a good day on Rangers Twitter, hasn't it? It's been a good laugh. We've been trying to bait our friends from the east end of the city into giving us their best conspiracy theories about why Rangers against Ross County was postponed at lunchtime today. In lieu of such I never saw any coming from Celtic fans. Maybe they're keeping their powder dry until they know the result of Saturday's Old Firm game at Parkhead. But in lieu of such conspiracy theories being presented by Celtic fans, we made up a few of our own. My favourite one was the Rangers Twitter hero who just redid his whole Twitter account to impersonate the SPFL's official Twitter account, and he put out an edict saying that as is normally the case when a club fails to fulfil its fixtures in the way that Ross County have failed to fulfil their fixture against Rangers at Ibrox tonight, a 3-0 win is automatically awarded to the opposition. Therefore, Rangers will be getting all 3 points and a 3-0 win. And the brilliant thing about that tweet, apart from the fact that this is a standard punishment when teams fail to fulfil a fixture, was the silence. The silence. We knew that although Ross County would be the club being directly punished by such an award of 3 points to Rangers, possibly putting them into the relegation danger, they wouldn't be the club making the loudest protest about that punishment being handed out. It was at another club from Glasgow. It's been a funny day. It's been a good old day on Rangers Twitter. The reason the game was postponed is because there's a storm hitting the country. Storm Gerrit right up you. And the A9, the main route from the northeast of the country down to the central belt, is impassable in places. It's a terrible road at the best of times, the A9, but I think when there's a storm in full force, it just shouldn't be attempted at all. A few Rangers fans saying, well, Ross County knew this. We all saw the weather forecast last night. They should have got themselves down to Glasgow last night and stayed over in a hotel before the storm hit. I think the point is that if Ross County could have made the fixture, and it's not a big country, Scotland, they should be able just to leave Dingwall in the morning to get to Ibrox for an evening kick-off. It's a lot of expense for a club of Ross County's size to have probably not been 2 nights in a hotel, probably to stay in Glasgow after the game as well. But I think the main thing here was that their supporters would follow if the game was taking place, and that's where the real danger to life was coming in. Albeit that in a stadium the size of Ibrox in particular, a travelling support of around 200 as Ross County would probably have brought with them for this game, it doesn't seem that big. In terms of the roads, that's a few dozen cars, some buses. That's too much. When I think the police are just generally trying to keep traffic off that road just now, that part of the country, because it wasn't just Rangers against Ross County, it was also Aberdeen at home to Motherwell. That was postponed as well, with the police being heavily involved in the decision, though I thought it was telling that Rangers reacted via Twitter straight away by saying, our pitch is playable, Ibrox is playable, it's because Ross County can't make it. Let's just point that out before other people start playing funny buggers. And there's no doubt about it, I think generally the Rangers support at large are, I wouldn't say, I am happy. Personally, I am happy the game's been postponed, and I'll explain that to you. There's no football to discuss, no game on tonight, so I might as well give you my the reason that I was particularly personally happy that this game wasn't going ahead, that me as a Rangers supporter wasn't going to get to go to Ibrox and only stay 45 minutes away, half an hour really, by car from Ibrox, so it's no real inconvenience to me. And yeah, I just couldn't be bothered going tonight. So never mind the benefit to Rangers, the team ahead of a big game on Saturday. Just personally, I'll explain that later on in the pod if I've still got time, and see if that chimes with other Rangers supporters out there. Maybe it's just a personal thing for me, but I think, although it's bad, it is bad for a lot of Rangers supporters who are having to travel further to this game than any Ross County supporter. A lot of fans setting off from England or whatever had already set off. Big trip today, and they found out at lunchtime, well after they'd set off, that their money had been wasted, their time had been wasted. And I was also reminded today that the first game my wee sister ever went to was on Boxing Day, 1986, when I took her to her first ever Rangers game. Well, she was big into Rangers. She hadn't been to a game yet, and I was going every week by that point. So I took her to see, it was Graham Roberts' debut. We beat Dundee United 2-0, just as soon as his first full season. And it was a great Christmas present at that point. All paper tickets, and it was for the Copeland Rear, because I knew that when you took people to Ibrox for the first time, I think the Copeland Rear and the Broomland Rear, I would advise you to take them to there to get what's kind of spectacular view of Ibrox. It gives you a real size of the kind of magnitude of the place from up the back of those particular stands, from behind the goals there. So I couldn't wait to see my sister's face when she came up the stand. And saw Ibrox, saw the pitch on that for the first time. But there'll be a lot of other, wee brothers and wee sisters about the country just now who are totally disappointed, they're totally gutted. They'll have got that for their Christmas present, nieces, nephews, grandchildren. Your first Rangers game is going to be the next one, Ross County at Ibrox, and that's been postponed, and that's be causing a lot of heartache. But I think generally taking the temperature of old curmudgeons like myself amongst the Rangers support at large, we know the team needs a rest. They could definitely do with the extra bit of rest. 6 days now between Motherwell at Fir Park and Celtic at Parkhead, and that's not so long that we're going to get rusty, and it's just what's required. Apart from anything else, let's not bother about the injuries at this particular moment in time. I think any team that goes through massive triumphs, almost kind of historical triumphs, as has happened to Rangers quite recently, that can have as much of a detrimental effect on your rhythm and your stamina, particularly mentally, psychologically, as a big setback. And we've had the big setbacks this season as well. We've had to change managers. There's been a lot to take on board for the players, just taking on the instructions of a new manager. But when they then provides our first win in Spain against Spanish opposition in almost 70 years of European competition for Rangers, and 3 days later we win a League Cup that was nothing more than a poison chalice for us. That was just an absolute pressure. It was almost like we could only fail this season. The winning the League Cup was only going to be failure avoided rather than the glory, and it really turned into a pretty glorious day for us to be lifting the first silverware of the season, for us to be getting our hands in the League Cup for the first time since Walter Smith won it 12 and a half years ago. But with Celtic going out that competition back in August, it's been nothing but a pressure ever since then on Rangers. So for us to have like a sensational, unexpected victory against Real Betis in Seville on the Thursday, and then on the Sunday a kind of ground out, kind of facing down the pressure type of victory against Aberdeen at Hampden in the League Cup final, I think the players have needed a break just to digest that and take that in, and just kind of go again. We've since beaten St Johnstone and Motherwell 2-0 each in the league. Never really threatened in either of those games, but very professional in both those games. But we never really hit the high notes at all. We've looked slightly jaded, and I think if we get into this game tonight against Ross County with Celtic at Parkhead, the next game, you couldn't have forgiven anybody for taking their eye off the ball in the Rangers team. They wouldn't have been forgiven. They'd been booed off the park if they'd failed to take all 3 points tonight. But you could have understood how that has just been the final straw, and the tiredness that must be affecting them mentally as much as anything else at this point in time. Just the distraction of one of the bigger games of the season on Saturday versus Ross County at Ibrox. Why was the game postponed? Why was the weather so bad? An act of God, obviously, but I blame Derek Adams. I think he's a man of God. It's well known that Derek Adams is a very religious person, and after Ross County lost by 1-0 at Dens Park against Dundee. Was it the 16th of December, a week back on Saturday? I think it was the only strike on goal that Dundee had in the whole game. It came in the 97th minute and defeated Ross County by 1-0 at Dens. And infamously and hilariously, after that, Derek Adams, ranting and raving, a kind of fire and brimstone type post-match interview in which he just destroyed Scottish football. Scottish football is an absolute disgrace. The standard of the game up here is an absolute disgrace. He couldn't believe how bad it was since he'd come back up the road from Morecambe, who were obviously playing like Man City all the time. And he was just saying, I don't know if he was saying this to get a rise out of his players, to say to them, look, how bad are you if you can't even beat this kind of standard of football? It seemed, having watched it, it's more like straightforward petulance. Oh, well, the game was rubbish up here. I didn't even want to win it anyway. That kind of thing. But he's got a direct line to the big man or the big woman or the big them upstairs. He's directly connected to God. And I don't know if God's interceding on behalf of Derek Adams, his or her or their prophet on earth, or he's interceding on behalf of the game, Derek Adams taking the name of the game in vain and being duly punished. But ever since that biblical rant by Derek Adams, Ross County haven't played another game. Their game against, their game on Saturday there was postponed. The game on Saturday in the league was postponed. This is the second game in a trot that's been postponed. So he's given it the biblical rants, and there's floods, pestilence, all that kind of stuff for postponing every Ross County game since then. So yeah, Derek Adams, definitely the man to blame for this. I was watching the weather forecast last night, not because I thought about the football. I didn't think that was going to be threatened, but I was trying to gauge how drunk I was going to get. Now, I don't know about you, I had to get out on Boxing Day. I didn't want to, but the sun came out, and it's not been sunny in Glasgow for like 2 weeks. It's been raining here for about a month, it feels like. So the sun comes out really inconveniently on the one day of the year I least like to move. I just want to sit on the couch on Boxing Day having my leftover turkey with a bit of reheated gravy and a decomposing Brussels sprout and an ice cold roast potato and a bit of grease stained freezing pig in blanket, and throw in some trifle and a couple of after eights and a half bottle of Malbec, and I'm completely happy just sitting watching The Eagle Has Landed or Eddie the Eagle or Where Eagles Dare. Anything Eagle based I will watch on television, but I had to go out because I just needed to get some rays into me. And you're walking about saying, "Oh, nice day, isn't it?" Oh, nice day, is it? Nice day. Oh, you'll pay the price. You'll pay the price for this nice day tomorrow. Mark my words. Was the patter about the streets of Glasgow yesterday, and so I got the idea that a storm might be coming, and I thought it wasn't even about the football. I was just thinking, right, I've just moved into this street. I mean, moved into this street, into this house 18 months ago, but I'm still a relative newbie when it comes to associating with the rest of the neighbours. And you want to create a good impression. And I thought, if there's any snow falling, it's a kind of awkward street in terms of it's up a hill and all that. There's hills on both sides, both ends of the street, and I think it's quite awkward for traffic. So I've heard talk about snowfall, the neighbours all getting out together and shoveling it all out the way. And there's a few people, I'm going to say elderly, they're older than me, that's all you need to know, across the way, and you want to be able to help them. I wouldn't want to be the guy, the total loser, selfish bampot who's lying pissed in his bed at 11 o'clock in the morning, because I was trying to gauge how much I was going to drink, if I was going to have to get up and help shovel snow. Was snow going to hit my street in a bad way? And the good thing about reporting Scotland, I didn't even want to watch the news. I don't want real life interfering on Boxing Day. I just want to watch Poirot. I just want to watch, who's the other Agatha Christie, Miss Marple. Just watch a bit of that, or the cartoons with the rats that are cooking stuff, or with the wee boy with the films with the wee boy with the wand. He's no a Philip Clement, but he's got a bit of magic about him. I just want to watch that kind of stuff. I watched the news because I needed to know if it was going to snow in my street. So Reporting Scotland make it really easy for idiots like me who don't understand isobars and things like that. They just get a big map of Scotland. It's the full size of the screen, and they get a big yellow crane, and they do a big yellow squiggly circle around the whole of the north of Scotland, and they go, that's your yellow weather warning in there, and a big yellow crane circle around the bottom of Scotland, and you go, that's your yellow weather warning in there, and right across the middle, absolutely fine. I saw the wee white square, and next to it said Glasgow, only going to be snow on higher ground in Glasgow. That's Bears Denimall guy. Doesn't affect me. Nobody cares about them. That's absolutely fine. I hit that second bottle of Malbec for Morrison's. Well, it's for Argentina, but it's through Morrison's. And I was absolutely smashed last night. That was great. That was the only reason I was worried about the weather. Aye, so that means that, Ross County would also have seen the weather forecast last night, and they could have come down the road. But we've established that it was just the police didn't want them travelling because they didn't want their supporters travelling. But I got up this morning in a drunken haze, and I'm watching Sky Sports News. I'm just like, I'm going to have to go to the game tonight. And there was the team news, Premiership, Rangers versus Ross County, Goldson, brackets, groin, doubt. And you're just like, Connor Goldson, the man who scored our winner the last time we won at Parkhead, the man who scored both goals in that game. We won 2-0 at Parkhead during the 2020-2021 season, the 55 season. That was the last time we won at Parkhead, wasn't it? And just a guy, generally, just our best centre-half and playing really well under Clement. Again, we need Connor Goldson back. He's coming off the park gingerly on Sunday at Fir Park. It wasn't getting helped by anybody, no crutches or stretchers involved, no treatment on the pitch at the time. Only 2 minutes to go in a game that we were winning 2-0. So you're thinking it's just a wee tweak he's felt. It's just a precaution. I'm seeing from other sources that he's one booking away from a suspension as well. So perhaps he wouldn't have been playing tonight anyway. It wouldn't have been risked. But that's just the start of the problems for Rangers when it comes to the injuries. The manager doesn't like to talk about injuries. He doesn't like to give us any information on injuries, so we don't know what's the prognosis on Kemar Roofe. Is Kemar Roofe out for? Is that his career over? We're always worried when he comes off the park even earlier than John Lundstrom last Wednesday against St Johnstone. Is that his career over, or is he just out for a few months, or is he going to be back, for example, against Ross County to make sure he's okay so he can start the game against Celtic at Parkhead or something? We things like that we're not sure of. We don't know if Ryan Jack or Jose Cifuentes or Nico Raskin, for that matter, are due to come back at any point in time. We don't know if Borna Barisic, who wasn't playing on Sunday against Motherwell, wasn't even in the bench against Motherwell. We don't know if he's going to be playing at Parkhead. Is he fit enough to play at Parkhead? Was he just been rested against Motherwell before playing against Ross County? Was Yilmaz going to come back into the team at Parkhead? We don't know these things. But I think just generally the way Rangers are just now, the way we've been hit by injuries and suspensions all season, we're just happy that Rangers aren't playing tonight to risk any more injuries or suspensions. For example, try to think of reasons that the game should have been played. The ways that the game against Ross County had been played would suit Rangers. Kieran Dowell and Dujon Sterling is our new sitting two in midfield. They've only had a game and a half together, the second half against St Johnstone at Ibrox last Wednesday and most of the game against Motherwell at Fir Park on Sunday. Now, Kieran Dowell scored the opening goal of the game within 3 minutes against Motherwell, but I think when I've got Celtic at Parkhead to play, a total maelstrom there, 60,000 Celtic fans, no Rangers fans. It's something neither of those players have experienced before. I could have maybe done with them getting another 90 minutes under their belt as a midfield pairing before they had to experience Celtic at Parkhead. But you know what would have happened? Dujon Sterling would have got sent off with 5 minutes to go, and then Kieran Dowell would have pulled his hammy. And that would have been it. Would have been down to Leon King and Bailey Rice starting as the sitting two at midfield at Parkhead on Saturday if they didn't tweak something getting onto the bus from Auchenhowie or Ibrox or wherever the bus leaves to go to Parkhead. So it's just better all round that we didn't play this game tonight. It's safer. Yes, we could have got closer to Celtic. For example, had we won this game tonight against Ross County, then that would have taken us back to within 2 points of Celtic with a game in hand, meaning that we would go to Parkhead knowing that a win would help us leapfrog Celtic, would put us in first place in the table, we'd take top spot from them on their own patch. What an absolutely devastating blow that would be, and what I've already described as a 9-pointer psychologically. But perhaps Celtic, knowing that, would be the boot up the arse they need. They've been a bit fragile of late. Would that knowledge make them more fragile? If they didn't start the game well, their crowd would certainly not be long in turning on them. But also it could be a line in the sand over which they're just not going to let us walk. They just say, no, that's it. It might just redouble their efforts. There's no way Rangers are coming here to take top spot from us on our own patch. So you never know how these things are going to work. I just think it was best that this game didn't go ahead. Our manager, Philippe Clement hasn't lost a game yet. Hasn't lost a game at all. Michael Beale's the first game Michael Beale failed to win as Rangers manager was the draw with Celtic at Ibrox at New Year. The first game he lost as Rangers manager was against Celtic at Hampden in the League Cup final. The first league game he lost as Rangers manager was against Celtic at Parkhead. The first game Giovanni Van Bronckhorst lost as Rangers manager was against Celtic at Parkhead. The first game Steven Gerrard lost as Rangers manager was against Celtic at Parkhead. Now, Steven Gerrard was just coming back from Bashkortostan, which is in Russia, but is actually, I think, closer to Tokyo than it is to Moscow. It's deepest Asia, almost Bashkortostan, and we'd gone down to 9 men in a second leg, remember, against Ufa in the Europa League qualifiers, the last of the Europa League qualifiers, the playoff round, and we held on over there. But although we affected a 4-goal swing on our last performance at Parkhead, we lost by 5-0. Steven Gerrard lost his first game as Rangers manager 1-0 to Celtic at Parkhead on the following Sunday. Then Giovanni Van Bronckhorst obviously had the midwinter, the winter break had been brought forward, lifeblood of the game and all that kind of stuff, to make sure Celtic could get some players back. I mean, to just make sure the fans could get back into the stadium. The fans that Celtic didn't mind just taking games off them altogether by cancelling 8 or 9 games for every club in the league when they claimed the title a couple of seasons previously because of COVID. But anyway, never mind. The break was brought forward, and that kind of suited Celtic more than it suited Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, so he was at a bit of a disadvantage there as well. Michael Beale, it was just taking over a new set of players. Things were only going to get better the following season, but I think Philippe Clement, it's actually nice that we've got a bit of a break before his first Old Firm game, his first trip to Parkhead as Rangers manager. I have to give a mention to Simon B again, because I love this stat. I only realised when he pointed it out on our YouTube page comment section that Rangers haven't lost a game in December, a league game played in the calendar month of December, since about 2019. Sunday there against Motherwell was our 25th win, 25th straight league win in the month of December. So we've only got one more left to play. It would be pretty nice if we could stretch that run to 26. I just feel, as I say, that Rangers, it suits them a lot better not having to play this game. The things that have been happening to our squad this season, we really need a break. I know one thing, another possible negative, is that we're adding another fixture to our New Year fixtures till after the winter break. Now, having to play Hibs at Easter Road, that's great. That's a really nice price to pay for being in the League Cup final. That was when that game was supposed to be played, so that's a sign of our success that we've got to play that one. This one against Ross County is just down to the weather, but it means effectively that we're taking away perhaps the advantage we gained by finishing top of a Europa League group stage and getting straight into the last 16, which isn't played until March in the Europa League. We thought we'd done well to miss out the round of 32, and we did. We'd be up against a team that had finished third in a Champions League group if we had to play in that round. But if you like, we've got a kind of home and away leg anyway. We've got away at Easter Road, and we're at home to Ross County at Ibrox, so it slightly takes away that advantage. You're hoping, however, that we get this guy Tom Taylor. As he arrived, the head of performance from Brighton, he's going to work his miracle massaging on the players and get them all back, and we'll get them back from injury, and we'll get a few loan signings or actual signings in during the January transfer window. And when we go away for this winter sun in Spain on our break during the winter break, it will let us get the squad refreshed, back up to speed, get a few players back, maybe get a few new players in, as I say. But still, there's a bit of fixture congestion facing us after the new year. And we know for a fact, I'm not just being bitter here, even though I am slightly bitter about it, precedent tells us that Celtic will get involved. They will get very nosily, very heavily involved and very preachy on when Rangers should be playing Rangers extra fixtures if Rangers are going to be involved in a title race, and I think that's more likely to be the case this season. So yeah, it's all in. There's a few ways of looking at it. They could say we should have played this game against Ross County tonight, but basically I think we're all kind of happy about it. And the really weird thing for me is, number one, it feels natural. It feels natural that this game was postponed, because the league has got to such a state just now, and this isn't an arrogant Old Firm fan saying only games against Celtic count. It's just the way things are. It's only Rangers and Celtic that have won the top title in Scotland over the last 40 years, and even though Rangers went down into the lower leagues, in that time I think Aberdeen came to within 5 points or something of Celtic in October. They never really challenged them for the top title, and needed us to come back up to take the title off Celtic and give them a run for their money, which we're doing again this season. So you're going to get to a situation where every other game that Rangers, every game that they play against everybody else in Scotland, basically 34 of our 38 league fixtures every season, is becoming merely a potential for embarrassment. It's an inconvenience. It's a possible banana skin. You could embarrass yourself here, but achieving a victory is not really in any way notable. Even at Tynecastle, even at Pittodrie and all that. It was an embarrassment for Rangers to drop points at Pittodrie this season. I remember Rangers not winning at Pittodrie for, once there in 12 years or something. I remember us getting scalped 5-1 up Pittodrie off. This is off Alec Ferguson's Aberdeen, of course, but for Rangers to be getting slagged when they draw at Pittodrie just shows how risible the whole situation has got. It's just a comment on the league. It's really weird. It felt as if, Rangers have had to work out different ways in which St Johnstone coming to Ibrox, Craig Levein, former Scotland manager, they're on the way back. There's been a good new manager bounce since he came in the door. St Johnstone could be a threat. I don't think they got a shot on our goal all game. Motherwell, they haven't beat Rangers at Fir Park for 21 years, and they're actually playing worse at any time than they have since the mid-90s. But, there's a chance that we just like the thing. If they actually beat Rangers, we just disposed of them within the first quarter of an hour of that game. So I think for us to try again tonight, we're going to have to try and make up ways in which Ross County, who I don't think have ever won at Ibrox, are going to be a big threat to us tonight. It just wasn't going to happen. It's just really difficult. And it's a comment. I know it's the Rangers-Celtic game, the Old Firm game is what it's all about for Sky and what have you, but I can't be bored with it anymore. It really is just, there's 4 games a season in which it's a match. For Rangers and Celtic, there's 4 proper contests, and even then, Celtic have scalped us 3-0 and 4-0 recently. Parkhead, we scalped Celtic 3-0 at the end of last season. There's sometimes where even that isn't a contest, but it's basically 4 games a season you're looking forward to. It becomes quite intense and quite boring at the same time, and I think that gives more scope for all the stupidness, the kind of political and pseudo-religious crap that goes on about Old Firm games, when we sometimes have to try and invent ways to make it feel like it's a properly important fixture. It's just the only fixture in Scotland, but no for a good reason. The Edinburgh Derby and all that, everything else really matters to the other teams. But for us as Rangers supporters, and I think for Celtic and Celtic fans, it's just there's only 4 games a season really in the league that I properly feel like a proper contest. So, that was weird. It just felt natural that this game didn't go ahead tonight. And on top of that, and this is the thing, I don't know if you get a feeling like this, I was just, at this time of year, it's my holidays. I finally got to a situation like I've had to work jobs in the past where I worked in Boxing Day, and I was always working between Christmas and New Year. And I know there's a lot of people out there who don't even get Christmas Day off. People working, nurses, doctors, fire brigade, policemen, that kind of thing. Even people working in the hospitality industry, stuff like that, retail sector. There's a lot of folk who don't get any holidays at Christmas and New Year. But I would always, my dad would be off for 2 weeks. Right through, if you like, Christmas Eve, right through early into maybe the second week of the new year. I had mates in the same situation, and finally I've got myself to a situation where I'm like that as well. I've got the 2 weeks, me and my wife, right the way off, right the way through. It's absolutely brilliant, and it's too intense watching Rangers. It's just this constant potential to slip up, to be embarrassed only. That's just it gets too much. It's too much pressure all the time. And the better we're doing in the league, the more chance we have of throwing stuff away. The more pressure it is. And I was just like, no, I'm quite glad this game's been postponed, because it's just, I think it's really strange that from about September onwards, your whole social life starts pointing towards Christmas. If you live in the so-called Christian world. Television the adverts start ramping it up towards Christmas Day. Your calendar starts what you're doing on Christmas Day, Christmas nights out, saving money, towards that. You need to make sure you get your Christmas presents in on time, and then it is, there's even those TV channels that have got the Christmas films on them. I think they start in September. They probably go on all year. And then you get down to the actual Christmas day itself, and it's like, right, you got to get the turkey in there for, is it 2.5, the turkey crown, 2.5 hours and all that, and you got to take the tin foil off to brown it for the last quarter of an hour. But the bit with the stuffing inside it, it's already brown, so how does that work out? And then you've got to take it out for 40 minutes to let it cool down before you can actually carve it, but you've got to keep it warm at the same time, and then that's when you put the roasters in the oven suddenly free. The roasters take 50 minutes at 200 degrees, but the pigs in blanket are like 25 minutes at 180 degrees, and they've got to go on the top shelf. And you've got the cauliflower cheese, that's like 35 minutes at 170 degrees and stuff like that. It's too much. There's too much stuff, and you've got to get the I like the tatties as well, a bit of mashed tatties, so I want them to boil for about 20 minutes. Get them properly peeled, but it takes about 10 minutes to get them to the boil, and then you get the feature piece of any Christmas dinner is your Brussels sprouts, and you can steam them, or I choose to boil them again. I boil them for 10 minutes to get them nice and soggy the way I like them, but you've got to get them to the boil first as well. All this stuff's got to come together, and at the same time, and I'm also thinking, Rangers have got 2 games in hand now over Celtic. We get the goal difference down as well. Do we want to play this game against Ross County, because it's a potential to slip up? We could get more injuries, we could get more suspensions, and then we're going to Parkhead, and even if we beat them, they're going to start crying conspiracy, and it's going to get really grubby and really intense, but really annoying. So we're thinking about the 30th of December as well. Since September, when we lost the first Old Firm game of the season, we as Rangers fans, our interior life has been dominated by the 30th of December. Next time we play Celtic at Parkhead, what's going to be the state of play then? What kind of situation are we going to be in at that point? We're going to have a new manager. Is he going to be good enough? Are we going to be challenging? Are we going to get in there top of the league? Are we going to get in there miles off it and needing to win? So it's too much pressure. You get the 25th of December, your kind of social life and what have you, public life, and then the 30th is your whole interior life, your nervousness is all taken up by that. And then to add insult to injury, the 3-week winter break when football shuts down, I can get a proper mental holiday. I don't mean a mental holiday like going to Ibiza and taking lots of eckies and stuff like that. I mean, a holiday for my mental, the psychological, you know what I mean. That arrives on the 2nd of January. That stops on the 2nd of January, the football, for 3 weeks. And that's just right at the end of the 2 weeks that I've got off across Christmas and New Year. So I'll have to go back to working when I'm actually starting to be relaxed. It's just no working for me anymore. Maybe you feel the same. Let us know in the comments section. All comments will be kept anonymous. Is it just me that feels like this? Does it just mean it's time for me to give up the football? Have I become a lightweight in terms of supporting Rangers? Certainly haven't become a lightweight in terms of how much I've consumed over the Christmas period. But aye, folks, if I can get my backside off the couch and away from the daytime television and the Christmas cake and what have you in the selection boxes over the next 48 hours, might do you a wee preview of things at Parkhead, but I don't think much will have changed in terms of what I've been ranting and raving about in this podcast. But at the very latest, myself or somebody else from Gersnet will certainly be back with you with a bit of post-match reaction after that trip to Parkhead on Saturday the 30th of December. And if you're watching that game, I hope your team wins, as long as your team's Rangers. Cheers, folks.